All right. Well, welcome everybody. Happy holidays to everybody and to you and your families. So, I'm Kelly Williamson. I am the plant-based kitchenista. So, we usually try to do these classes, and we, of course, plant-based, but we try to do these classes about every 2 weeks. This month got a little crazy. I also have a full-time job, so the full-time job kind of took over a little bit. So, trying not to let that happen, but we are in a constant state of go lives at the healthcare organization I'm at. So, it gets just a little crazy. So, but we are, like I said, we are plant-based, so whole food plant-based. We don't do cook with oil, so it's either water, vegetable stock or broth, or every once in a while we'll use maybe a little bit of white wine or something, but that's pretty rare. So most of the time it's vegetable broth, stock, or water. A lot of times it's water. So we have two great recipes. So I changed it up a little bit. So thanks over like the holidays and stuff in November, lots of like holiday recipes and all this. This one, it looks like a holiday recipe, but not necessarily is a holiday recipe. But it is something that you can make, and it's beautiful. Once you make it all up, and it's got instead of using the canned cherry tomatoes, couldn't find them anywhere. I'm actually going to use fresh cherry tomatoes, but they always they simmer down. They look great. You could roast them out if you want some of the kind of the roasted look on them, but they just make a really beautiful presentation. So we have that, and then we're going to do an Italian cabbage. So because it's kind of kind of a little bit Italian feel. And sometimes, a lot of times when we get to the holidays and it gets to be the Christmas holiday, we end up doing something that's different anyway. So it's like you get through all the sweet potatoes and the mashed potatoes, even because we eat that a lot anyway. And you're just kind of like, okay, stuffing, good, I'm done. I want to do something else. So this is a little bit more savory, but like I said, it actually comes out very, very pretty. And it's one of those things I think that most people, I would say probably 99% would try and eat and enjoy just along with everything else and stuff that you have on there. I also the Italian cabbage, like I said, will be really good, just savory type of a dish. But I also with the lentil nut loaf, the roast and stuff. When I make just like regular roast and things, I usually do like mashed potatoes and that. So there's a small little thing of mashed potatoes back there for because this is going to be dinner. And it's the Broncos. We live in Colorado, so the Broncos are getting ready to play. They're going to the playoffs and all that fun stuff. So got to have all that ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Jerry introduce himself. He's the guy behind the camera, but he's also a plant-based nutritionist. So I'll have him introduce himself, and then we'll get this started. And I'll tell you a little bit, kind of some of the setup that I did, and to get some things ready because a roast will take you 40 minutes sometimes to be actually baked. So I baked it ahead of time, but we're still making one, and so I'll just have one to bake tomorrow. So at least you'll get to see the finished picture, which is the best part.
Season greetings, everybody. Got my little Christmas sweater on for this occasion. So I'm Jerry Casados. For those who don't know me, I'm a plant-based nutritionist. We've been plant-based now almost 18 years. It's hard to believe. And I did it for health reasons, heart disease developing. I was on 3 blood pressure meds, cholesterol meds, the typical stuff when you seem like people over 50. But I got off of all that. It was getting pretty serious. And I went and saw Dr. John McDougall for his 10-day living program. And he got me off all the meds, 35 pounds lighter, and everything's good, reversing heart disease as we speak. And so I decided to go back to school and become a nutritionist and share this information with everybody to get well. I saw so many people get well in just 10 days. So I'm just trying to share that. If you have any questions, put them in the chat window. I'll be glad to answer anything about nutrition. Our links are out there. So I'm just here to eat and watch. Thanks.
Pretty much true. Eat, definitely eat. The size of him and stuff, but if anybody else has been on there and knows Jerry and stuff, he can eat a lot. He can eat pretty much anybody into the table. So, and then probably loses like 5 pounds, which, man, we won't go there. So we're gonna start the lentil nut roast. We're gonna start making that up and get that sauteing, and then we're gonna make the sugo, which is it's like just basically a tomato sauce, but it's more like a whole tomato sauce, which is really good. You could mix it up. You could add in some basil if you wanted to. I mean, there's all kinds of different things. We're gonna keep it pretty simple, just because you've got the nut loaf and stuff that has a lot of flavor too. And then after we get that in the oven, because we want to, after it's all baked, because I already baked the loaf and stuff so we could see the finished product. But like I said, I'll bake the other one tomorrow. But you've got like 15 minutes of it just simmering together and getting that really nice flavors and all that. So we want to get in the oven to do that. So let's get with the lentil nut roast. So we've already got the oven, so it's preheated to 350 degrees. and it's been ready to go. We've got a loaf pan. This is the size you're going to want to use. It doesn't have a size on it, but this is a really good size for a loaf. But you can also do it with a small one. So instead of using like all the sprays and things like that, all you need to do is just kind of grab some parchment paper, and then you just, you've got the one big piece like this. So you just put that and kind of wrap it around the sides. And when it's gonna keep like kind of flaring up at you, you just, once you start putting the loaf in there, it'll all settle down and stuff. And then you just grab one of the pieces that you cut off and you put that on the side. And what that's gonna allow you to do, as long as you have the edges here, it's gonna allow you to pick up the edges and be able to put the loaf and stuff right where you want to put it. Because otherwise you're doing this, trying to put it on something like a plate or something, and then you're trying to really nicely scoot it into the big dish and stuff that you're going to have. So that's an easy way to do it. But like I said, you could make it, two small loaves if you wanted to, or you could do it in one of the big loaves. And the bigger loaf pan, it goes probably about halfway up to 3/4 of the way up, and you just really want to compact it in. It's not a like, because it's got the nuts and things like that. It's not like really like moist and stuff as far as when you're packing it together. But once you start packing it down and stuff, it holds up really well, because I'll show you here in a few minutes. All right, so we're going to heat vegetable broth up. So we're going to start with that. So we're going to start sauteing up all the ingredients that are in it. But look at this recipe as one of those ones of, if you like it, you could add, if you've got other things that are around, like I could say, especially holiday season, you got green beans, you've got, you've got the panko breadcrumbs, but maybe you have something completely different that you use, like maybe breadcrumbs for stuffing, and you still have things laying around or vegetables. You can just add things to this. So I'm giving you the base recipe, which is really good, and it has a lot of flavor, especially with the tomato sauce on it. But at the same time, as you can add anything else you want to it, to even, add more color, or you could add some tomatoes in it if you wanted to, even though you have tomatoes on the side. It's all yours. It's kind of like your canvas, put it that way. All right, so we got the vegetable broth in here. That's heating up. And then we're going to do the onions. So we've got one onion finely chopped. I just had a white onion. You could use yellow. You could use, whatever you've got. Doesn't matter. Whatever you've got in the fridge. Could be a red onion, because we are going to be using the red onion for the tomato sauce. So you could have done like a half and half or that type of thing. All right, so we got that in there. So finely chopped. We also have celery. So we've got two celery stalks finely chopped. To make things easy, you could always use those little salad choppers. Those are nice, and they can give you a really fine chop. So you don't have to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. But this is one of those recipes, and this is what I did too, is that you can make it up. So I made all the ingredients up for the loaf, the nut roast and stuff, and I actually put it in just a bowl, and I put saran wrap on it and put it in their fridge. And then I brought it out. So that had been Wednesday night. I brought it out. Was it Wednesday night? Yeah, it was last night. I had to think what day it was. And then Thursday, today, I actually pulled it out, and then I put it into the loaf pan and put it in the oven. So one of the nice things about this one, you can get it done a couple days ahead of time if you wanted to, because there's nothing in it that's going to go bad. And then you can just, pop it in the oven, and away you go. So celery, onions. You could also add carrots. That's something you'll find commonly in like roaster loaves and that type of thing. Roasted red peppers, especially if you've got a tomato sauce, would be really good in here. That would be another fun thing that you could put in. Or you could actually roast some red peppers and then do kind of like a hatch, kind of like what am I trying to say? A weave on the top and stuff, which would be really pretty. So kinds of different stuff you could do. Nothing better than the smell of like onions and celery and garlic and everything else going on. Just give that a couple minutes. So we're going to add some lemon. So that's a little bit different about this. It's this one, you're going to see, like, you're going to think, typical roast loaf, that kind of thing. It has almonds in it, which is different. It has currants in it. If you can't do currants, you can't find them. They're usually dry. They're usually, next to like the dried cherries and the cranberries. It's the currants and stuff really don't, they have just a little bit of sweet taste, but not much. I would say probably dried cherries. But when we say we need 2 tablespoons of dried currants, if you use the cherries because they're a lot sweeter, or you use cranberries, I would go with 1 teaspoon. I wouldn't go with two teaspoons, because it's going to make it really sweet. But it's just, currants are just, they look like really dried up raisins. But not too bad. Not much taste to them, but they're pretty. Once you'll see the loaf and stuff, you'll see that it looks really pretty. But just a teeny little bit of sweetness. So I'd say if you use the dried cherries or dried cranberries, use half. And then what I would do too, because they're a lot larger, the currants are really small. I would chop them up. Nobody would know the difference. I'm going to throw the garlic in. So garlic, we've got 2 garlic cloves minced. Lemon's another thing that you're not going to see in a lot of roast or loaf. So that's what makes this different too. All right, so we're going to need, so basically 3 teaspoons of finely grated lemon peel. So it's just the peel that you're going to use. So one of the things you can see that I did one last night, I kept it in the fridge and stuff. Otherwise, they get really hard. But if you keep it in the fridge tomorrow, what I'll do is I'll just keep it in the fridge again, but I'll just half it and I'll just have lemon water in the morning. So like maybe hot lemon tea or something like that and use them up. Or if you have another recipe you want to use them on. That lemon smells so good. Like citrusy clean is what it is. Yeah, a little bit more vegetable broth while we're here. You can also, depending on where you live and stuff, you can actually buy dried lemon rind. That's another thing. There's like spice shops that'll have it, or there's like natural grocers and sell it. So pretty much anything that you're looking for in a spice, and maybe you don't want to have all the fresh lemons around, you can find all dried. Amazon too. They're one of the biggest spice stores out there, I think. Pretty much anything you want. But just sauteing up, you want to get to where your onions are translucent and then your celery is soft. Because of course you're going to mix this all together. And just kind of keep watching it. Your vegetable broth or stock is, of course, is always going to burn off faster than oil that we used to use, like all the olive oils and all that. So you always just want to watch when you're cooking or sauteing or caramelizing. You just kind of keep watching and just keep adding more to it. And you can also cut it too if you do, like if you put a teaspoon of vegetable broth in it, you can add a teaspoon of water too. And between the 2 of them, it doesn't burn off as fast, which is really nice. All right, so we've got everything in there. So we're going to add the mushrooms. So these are just baby bellas. You could use, whatever your favorite mushroom is or whatever's out there. And then it's a cup of mushrooms, my favorite, and they're sliced. So I just did really small slices and they're ready to go. I just find and I don't know about you guys, but in Colorado, I find that the baby bellas always are the better pricing of the mushrooms than anything else that's out there. Even the white button, which used to be the cheapest, not anymore. I think they got popular. And I like the baby bellas because if I put them into a soup and I leave the small gills that are inside of them, then, or the big portobellas, it actually will brown up the sauce and stuff that's in your soup. If you want more of a brown sauce, that's how you do it. Just getting it sauteed up. Then once this gets soft, we'll add into a bowl. As you notice, I didn't add any more vegetable broth or anything. A lot of times your mushrooms are going to put out moisture. So kind of before you add a bunch of liquid, but when you put your mushrooms in, especially if your pan's starting to get a little dry, just kind of wait a minute and you'll see quite a bit of liquid that's coming out. I am not a mushroom fan at all. But this loaf, when I mix everything together, so as long as it's kind of like I guess almost hidden for me, or ground up into something, or very, very small, and I don't know, like I'm taking big bites of mushrooms because it's a lot of the consistency and kind of the flavor of dirt for me. So highly admit it, that and beets and that kind of stuff. But it's it really cooks down here. And then once you mix it all up into loaf, I'm okay. But on a salad or a pizza or something like that, yeah. But that's okay. Jerry doesn't mind because then he gets them all. So, okay, so we got the mushrooms in there, making sure we're going to transfer it to a large bowl. Let me grab the bowl. So give it another quick stir. Like I said, this is where you could add, if you had things cut up or you had some extra carrots, maybe they were starting to go to the side of going bad and you go ahead, you could chop those up really small. You could add those in. You could add more onion, a little bit of cauliflower rice. I mean, there's just so many other things that you could add to this to give it a little bit different flavor, which that's the nice thing about these recipes. All right, dump it in. There's our veggies. Yeah. Okay, so we probably got about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of the veggies. Those are all ready to go. Then what we did is I reserved a tablespoon of the almonds. So I just took regular almonds and chopped them up, but you could use the slivered almonds. You could use, even if you didn't want to do almonds, you could do any of the type of nut. You could do pistachios or walnuts, whatever you have in the freezer. I have all my nuts in the freezer just to keep them fresh, but I have plenty of almonds, so I just chopped them up last night. But I reserved about a tablespoon, a little bit more than a tablespoon, because I'm going to add that to the top. I also reserved some of the parsley, some of the fresh parsley out. And then I'm going to do a little bit of the edges and stuff with the lemon. So a little bit of the lemon rind is going to be on top too, which adds really nice freshness. So we got everything in there. So I've got all that reserved. So I'm going to add the lentils. It actually says on the recipe canned, but I didn't find the cans the other day when I was shopping. So I just cooked some lentils. And it's a good thing because if I have extras, I could always make sloppy joes tomorrow or different things like that. So let me grab a spoon real quick because I'll just use this. I'll just kind of measure them out a little bit. Yep. So a little bit left over, not too bad. But you could put that on a baked potato, salad, use it many different ways for the extra lentils that you have. But if you can find the cans, you can use the can. That makes it even easier. You don't have to worry about cooking the lentils. Okay, so that's in there. So 14 ounces, basically almost about 2 cups. So probably got maybe just a little over 2 cups in there. Then we've got some, making sure I'm following along because sometimes, you get busy and you kind of mix up things. We've got 2 tablespoons of dried currants. Those are going to go in. Like I said, they look like little tiny dried raisins. They're pretty. Okay, and then we've got the flaxseed eggs. So we've got 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. So let me get a little bit of warm water. Oops. And then I'm gonna do 3 tablespoons of water. Give it a quick stir. I'll let this set for just a minute. Flaxseed eggs, of course, you can have them ready. But that's going to help you with your binding along with the lentils. Lentils will also bind. So I'll hold that off to the side and just let it set for a couple minutes. Then I've got parsley. So I kind of pulled off to the side. We've got basically a half a cup of fresh parsley. So you're going to get that nice greenery in there. If you're not a parsley fan, you could do basil. You could do other things. You could also do La Quinta kale. So you could chop that up really fine and then have kale out through this. Spinach would be another one. Adds beauty to it. Okay, and then we've got the parsley, lentils, currant, flaxseed, parsley, breadcrumbs. So the breadcrumbs, we've got just panko breadcrumbs. You can find them gluten-free. You can get all kinds of different gluten-free ones if you're looking for that. And the breadcrumbs and stuff, we've got a 1 1/3 cups. It's going to go in. Making sure it got everything. And then we're going to add in. We're going to add in the nuts. So then we have the almonds. So we're going to do 2/3 cup, just chopped, rough chop, but small little chop. I'm just going to add that in. All of it's going to go together. There you go. So that's what it looks like, except for flax egg. You could also do a chia egg if you wanted to. Chia seeds, just mix that in. Smells really good. It's got like a kind of like a nutty, a little bit of a bean, like a lentil bean, which lentils don't always smell like beans to me. But then you've got the parsley and you've got the lemon. So you're getting that smell of that lemon in there too. It smells really, really good. Got everything in. Yes, we do. Okay. So mixture, what it looks like there. So what you do then, show it works. You can see the black currants in there and the parsley and everything else. This is, like I said, this is where you could add, your roasted red peppers. You could add, your carrots if you wanted some orange in there, tomatoes, all kinds of different things that you wanted to. So let's just say you don't do the tomato sauce and you add the tomatoes into it and make it. That would be very pretty too. So if we were doing this, but I'm going to bake this tomorrow, so I'm not going to put it in here right now. I just take my lined baking or my lined loaf pan just like that. A little bit so even. And then I'll just start layering it in. And then I'm just going to, like, when I get a layer in there, I'm going to really pat it down, make sure it goes into all the edges. So you get that nice rectangle look. And then I put another layer on and I just pat it down. So the top, you want it to be smooth when you put it in the oven. So then it's going to bake 350 for about, depending on your oven. So probably 35 to 40 minutes. And it's going to get, you want to make sure that it's getting a nice, like a toasty brown, golden brown and stuff on the top. And you'll see it on the edges. And then that's when you've got it done, let it set for 5 minutes. And then when you're getting ready to put it into your casserole dish, this is when you're going to pull this up and you're going to have the loaf with it. And then you'll be able to just, once you put it down on your casserole dish, let's just say, let's just say this is the casserole dish here. I have the loaf here. When you put it down, you're actually going to be able to just pull the paper out and do this. And then your loaf's going to stay right there in the middle. So instead of worrying so much about flipping it over and putting plates and things and hoping it holds, because when it's a roast or a loaf, it'll tend to crack a little bit. That's the easy way to do it. So this will just go. So since I don't need something right now, I'm actually going to put this in the fridge. I'll just put some saran wrap on it, put it in the fridge, and then I'll bake it on Saturday. So.
Could you add cheese between the layers?
I would, if you're going to do cheese, I would do a plant-based cheese if you're going to do that. So there is things like Miyoko's, like mozzarella cheese, and maybe you just do a little bit like in the middle. So it's a surprise and stuff, but I would definitely stay, or like a cashew cheese, you could do that. But I would definitely, since I'm plant-based, I would definitely stick with a plant-based type of a cheese. But you could, there's, the old, like, like my mom and stuff. I remember she used to make, like the meatloaves and like with hamburger and turkey and all that. And she would put sometimes like a layered cheese in the middle or tomatoes or some kind. It was almost like a meatloaf surprise. You never knew what you were going to get in the middle when my mom, it was kind of like whatever was in the fridge or cabinets. So there we go. So that's, like I said, that'll be for Saturday or Sunday. And it actually might be for one of the neighbors. So when we end up making double things like this, so we can have the recipes ready. A lot of times the neighbors get it and they love it. They're not plant-based. They like to, I guess, plant curious, maybe,
Yes.
I guess. So they tend to, anything that I send over, like if I've done like a shepherd's pie and I've done, all kinds of different things. They eat, like I do muffins all the time, pumpkin bread, especially during the holiday season. They're really big on like, hey, anything you bring over, scones, and especially plant-based, they're like all good. So happy about that. So they'll be happy with the loaf. And actually, one of our neighbors 2 doors down, their daughter's coming in from Chicago and she is plant-based. So this is probably a good thing for that. All right, so we're going to get the sauce going. Oops, so I took my recipe off. That doesn't help. And like I said, I'll show you when I get the sauce ready, I'll show you what the loaf looks like because like I said, I baked one earlier. All right, so we're going to heat vegetable broth in the skillet again. So we're going to start that up. A little bit of that. And then, so the tomato sugo actually has, so red onion, garlic cloves, cherry tomatoes, and you can do the cherry tomatoes canned or you can do them fresh. Cherry tomatoes right now in the stores and stuff are very expensive. I think I got 2 packs for $3. And I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't find anything that canned cherry tomatoes. I could find everything else, but not canned cherry tomatoes. So I was like, fine, we're just going to do the fresh. But you could do it like this. You could actually roast them because I thought about doing that too, roast them out first. So you could put them in the oven, put them on some parchment paper, put some vegetable broth or water with them, and then put them in the oven and then you could either half them or keep them whole and then just let them at 350 roast. And then you'll get some like nice roasted edges on them, which could be very pretty, would completely change the look of your dish too. So many different ways you could kind of mix this up. And then it has a little bit of cayenne. You do not have to put the cayenne in. So if you don't want a little kick, leave it out, completely okay. And then it's got balsamic vinegar. So it's going to give that really nice, rich flavor. So we've got, if you're following along, we're going to add the onion and saute that. That's the other thing I forgot to tell you, red onion. So this is 1 red onion, thinly sliced. If you don't like slices of onion, because I know some people that I've met before, they're like, not an onion fan, or not big slices of it, feel free to just chop it up. So like thinly slice it and then do like a mince on it. Or another thing you could do is dried onion flakes. So if you're still not a big fan of onions at all, because I have met some people that don't like onions and are allergic to garlic, you could just add you're allergic, stay away from it. But if you're not wanting to slice it up or don't have it, dried onion flakes works really well. So I'm just going to saute those up, get them translucent, give it about a minute. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to add the garlic, and then we're going to stir in the tomatoes and the cayenne pepper, and then we're going to bring it to boil and kind of reduce it because we want to have it like a low simmer. Want to make sure that it gets a little bit thicker, and it's not like, you don't want like a really runny sauce. The reason why is, of course, you're having the loaf in the middle of your pan, and then you have the sugo around it, and so you definitely don't want to have like lots of liquid because all your loaves, basically your roast or your loaf and stuff is going to soak it up, and that's not going to be good. And depending on how fast it takes to go down a little bit, hopefully we can get it pretty quick. But we're going to want to get this in the oven. But the good thing is we only need 15 minutes once your loaf is done to you're basically heating everything up and just making sure all the flavors are melting together. Same thing if your vegetable broth stock water burns up, just add a little bit more. And I get a lot of questions a lot of times about, can you caramelize onions? Yes, you don't have to have oil to do it. It takes you a lot longer. But what I do is I find whatever vegetable broth that I have or stock. This one's really light color. It's almost clear, so there's not much color to it. If you get the Pacific, and there's a couple other brands that are out there, they're really dark, almost kind of like a yellow, like a muddy yellow. If you get those, that will caramelize and turn the color of your onions really fast. And then you could saute, you could saute up 3 or 4 onions because the onions are gonna, they're gonna reduce in size. You could saute 3 or 4 up and then have them for sandwiches. If you do like a cashew cheese sandwich or a vegetable sandwich, all kinds of different things, potatoes, salads. Caramelized onions are really good. Just takes you about 10-15 minutes of just adding vegetable broth, water, to get them caramelized. But they're good, really good. Okay, so we got that translucent, lost a lot of the color. So that's ready to go. Then we're going to add in the garlic. So the garlic, we have 2 cloves of garlic minced. Be careful with your garlic. You don't want to burn your garlic. So if you've ever had a tomato sauce somewhere and it almost like burns your mouth and stuff, that means the garlic's been burned. It almost becomes very bitter. When I used to do the cooking classes in person, we had them in like natural grocery stores and Whole Foods and all that. Whenever I started nuts in the oven or garlic and onions, people would come in droves into the kitchen area and ask like, "Oh, what are you cooking?" And I'm like, "It's just garlic and onions," but it brings people in. Okay, so I got that in there. We've got that garlic. Now we're going to stir in the tomatoes. So this is probably 2.5 containers of those little, plastic containers that you have that would equal to the what do we have? 2 14-ounce cans of the cherry tomatoes. So there's probably a little bit more than that. I'll kind of play with it a little bit. Yeah, I'll just add them because I can always add them to something else tomorrow. Gary's not going to complain about sauteed tomatoes. Almost like doing cranberry sauce. You got the whole cranberry, so put a little bit of moisture. Okay, we got that in there, and then we're going to add the cayenne pepper. So got 1 teaspoon. Cayenne's like a little bit smoky, so I'm just going to do kind of a little drizzle. Sticking to the bottom of the thing there. Okay, and then we're going to let it thicken a little bit. That's why you don't want to add too much vegetable broth, water, stock. The other thing you're going to want to do, lid, because they'll start kind of like popping a little bit like cranberries do. So you want to make sure you've got that covered. And I decided after doing this, I'm going to go buy, because I saw this really cool like casserole dish, and it was probably about that thick, and it had handles on it. It was white, and I was like, I was going to do it today, but I didn't have time to take away from work and stuff. But I'm like, okay, this weekend I'm buying it because to make things like this and have those, large casserole dishes or really thick lasagnas, I need to get one. So it's going to be adding to my collection. All right, that is the cooked lentil nut roast. So that's what it looks like. So this is the bottom part of it. So when I had it and I flipped it over, this is the bottom part. So it's got the nice color and things like that on it, which makes it really pretty. But see, look at that. You get the currants in there. If you didn't have currants, but you had like black cherries or cherries type of thing, but then you have the greenery and everything else. It just turns out really pretty. And it tastes really good. It's got a nice little got like a savory flavor, but then it has the almond flavor. It has the lentils and all that. So the mixtures of everything together, really good. Very different than your normal, but good.
Sandwich.
You what?
Make a sandwich.
Yes, you could. You can actually, it will slice up and you could make sandwiches out of it. So you could do the tomato sauce, and you could also like make it and maybe not put it in the oven, but maybe you make a side, like you've got one of those big platters. And so you make a side of the sugo, the tomato sauce, and you have that in a huge bowl, like a, really pretty, I was trying to think like, this is not Italian, but something like this, something that's really pretty. And then you have it on the platter. So you could put this on the platter and then the tomato sauce on the other side and let people dish it over, type of thing. And that would be really good so that then it doesn't get so moist. And then the next day you can just keep, slicing it up for sandwiches and that, because it's going to get a little bit moist with the tomato sauce, but it's all good. But think about a sandwich. If you did like toast your bread, you do the lentil nut roast, and then you've got this the tomato sauce, and it's really thick. What else do you need? Maybe a little Dijon mustard or something, but be good. You got the onions in there too, so you can see my tomatoes are starting to wilt down. Look at a lot of them that are starting to break down, so I'm just going to keep that going. And then once it's towards the end, I'm going to add the balsamic, which is going to give it a great flavor. And then let me get the cabbage ready. Get all the ingredients here. Green cabbage. You can use Napa cabbage. You could mix red and green. Your typical, of course, is just your green cabbage when it's Italian. Fine for a minute or two. Balsamic, you can use regular balsamic. This one is actually the thickened, so it's actually hold the bottle, it's easier. Really good brand, of course, Napa Valley Naturals balsamic vinegar. The Grand Reserve 25 stars, as you can tell in the jar, it's really thick. So it's almost like a reduced, but not quite as much reduced as a regular, but it's really good and it's sweet and it's got that tang with it. So this is the balsamic that I'm using tonight. But if you want to change it up, you could add, there's so many other balsamic flavors out there. So, you could add like a garlic balsamic, you could add, an apple or a peach, there's just so many things that you could add to it and make it a different flavor, which is really nice. I'm just using the straight balsamic. Isn't that pretty? Love turned out really, really nice. And like I said, all I did was when you're putting in the layers, you're just pressing it down and pressing it down and just really making sure that you make this smooth as much as you can and fill it all in like that. And then it's all ready to go. Be a good sandwich. Be a really good sandwich. We do that with any type that like loaves or roast is sandwiches the next day, like maybe caramelized red onions and Dijon mustard, lettuce, tomato, all those fun things and stuff. This one will be just as good, but a very different flavor than just your regular, like I make a Thanksgiving loaf and all that, very different than that, which is nice to have. Some of them you can go in just the back of your spoon and just kind of pop them a little bit if they don't pop down real quick. Because I want to get the moisture out of it. It's the inside of the tomatoes is the moisture that's coming out. And that's what you want to thicken up because that's where you don't want it so much. Just a little bit. And I'm going to leave the lid off because the moisture dissipates faster. But look at that already. Beautiful. And if you had the, depending on your stores, because sometimes it's really easy to find things, and then there's other times it's not so easy to find things. Especially after holidays or in Colorado, after a snowstorm or maybe the pretense of a snowstorm coming, don't go to the grocery store. They are cleared out. Everything in the store is walked out, whether needed or not. So if you can find it and you had like the heirloom tomatoes, and so you had all the different colors, or even some like the orange and the yellow ones, that would be really pretty too. Give you a completely different look and feel. So quite a bit of moisture right now still, but it's thickening up. So I'm just going to keep it simmering a little bit because cabbage is not going to take very long to do, but I want to get this in the oven. You could also, if you're just using a little bit of this, you could also take some of this, like part of this out. Like if you had like double the tomatoes, some of this out, and then make like a, what am I trying to, I had it in my head just a minute ago. What's the word for it? If somebody types it in, it's like not a marmalade, but like you see them on the, like certain crap. I can't think of not a sauce. Chutney. Thank you. That's what it was. You could make a chutney with it. So you could add some different flavors in it. Some of your like maybe favorite jellies and things. So you could do like a jalapeno jelly or something. So you could get a completely different thing, and that could be something that goes on your sandwiches that gets added to the top. Okay, getting thick. Watch my time. I'm gonna add the balsamic. A couple tablespoons of balsamic. Makes it turns your tomato stuff really, really dark, which is really pretty. Okay, still needs to cook down a little bit, so I'm actually gonna cheat a little bit because I need to be able to get it into the oven and get everything else made. You can see it's pretty thick. There's a little bit. Have to clean up the dish a little bit. I'm getting a tomato facial. Let me do one thing before I show it. We can get it in the oven. That was a little messy. Okay, then we're going to add parsley. Almonds. And my lemon rind, just a little bit on the top. Okay. Now this is going to go in the oven and roast up for about 10-15 minutes to get nice and bubbly. So I'm going to put this in the oven right now. But isn't that pretty? That looks like holiday. You know, now for the cabbage. We're going to drizzle vegetable broth or water. We're going to add the sliced onions. So this is a sliced white onion. Nice, pretty half moon slices, but thin. Right. So the cabbage has green cabbage, large onion, which we just put in the pot, has tomato paste. So it's going to give you that kind of nice, warm, accompanied Italian type of flavor. It's got fennel seed. I love fennel seed. I love it on lots of different things. If you don't have fennel seed, but you have fennel powder, you could use that too. I have a smoked paprika, so that's going to give it that nice smoky flavor. And then liquid smoke goes in it. It says a teaspoon, or less to taste. So I'm just going to do, when I do it, probably just maybe like a drop or so. And I usually put it in my loaves and things, but we're just going to taste it and then we're going to taste a little bit. So I always say, even with my recipes, because I would be fine with the smoke, go low and then always add in. So just as you taste it, then add a little bit more of the smoked paprika, the fennel seed, that type of thing. And then we've got salt, sea salt, black pepper. I don't add salt. I do it, like just like Chef AJ, it's, food addictions. It's also health. It's all kinds of different reasons. So I just keep it out. I don't cook with it, but of course, put it always in the recipes as to taste or whatever. But I put it on the table in case somebody like me wants a little salt, then I grab it. And then we're going to do 15 ounces of cannellini white beans. So rinse and drain, which we have, and a pinch of red pepper flakes. So give a little bit of kick to it, and some vegetable broth, which is what we've got. Same thing, if you don't want the larger pieces, the onion, feel free to chop them up. So you could do a diced onion if you wanted to. So you want to keep sauteing it till it gets translucent. And then if you're following along, you could add, so it says on here, you could add a pinch of salt. I'm not adding salt at all to it. And then once everything gets done, we're gonna add some more vegetable broth and water to keep sauteing until the onion gets caramelized. We'll get it to a point where it'll be sort of caramelized. Then we're gonna stir in the chili flakes. But like I said, even with a pinch of chili flakes, add some kick to it. So you may want to say, I think I'm gonna wait until everything cooks and then add the chili flakes. Feel free to do that, because in that way you don't get, what I don't want you to do is get something that's too hot or too smoky and you're like, don't like it. So always add things to the end and then always go low and add, because if you put everything in and you don't like it, you throw it away. That's not what I want at all. So we're going to add the chili flakes in, and then we're going to add we're going to add the fennel seeds, and then we're going to get that going. So we're only going to add a tablespoon of the fennel seed, and then we're going to deserve a little bit on the side. But fennel seeds, it's like, I used to hate it because it reminded me of black licorice, and I always hated black licorice, but really grown to love the smell. It's really good. It's really good if you make like plant-based meatballs and you use like lentils and all kinds of things. Fennel is really what takes it over the top. Okay, so we're going to do red pepper flakes and fennel. So we'll get everything kind of in order. Then we're going to do smoked paprika and tomato paste. I use, my favorite is all Savory Spice. They're sold here in Denver, but they can ship anywhere. But Savory Spice, they do a smoked Spanish sweet paprika. It's one of the best. I'll show it really quick. That was like a fast, see? Really good smoked paprika. I pretty much, when it says paprika, I always put in the smoked paprika. I just love, it's kind of a sweet, smoky flavor. Really good. Starting to caramelize a little bit, because you kind of let them sit on the bottom of the pan. And it's kind of like when your mom used to do gravy and she'd scrape off the bits at the bottom of the pan. You can do that with your onions, and then so that yellow brown color starts seeping into your onions. It smells really good too. Love sauteed onions. Any type of onions, don't care. Like them. I like them fresh. It would be hard if you were allergic or didn't like onions or garlic. That's like such the base of so many recipes. But see where they're already starting, the color starting to change on them. Give it another minute. So we got these going in here. Then we're going to add the shredded cabbage. So it's going to be like kind of like an order. Mise en place. Get that. And then once we're done and stuff, we're tossing the cannellini white beans. If you're not a big fan of, which hopefully if you're plant-based, you like beans. I know some people are allergic to legumes and that type of thing, but hopefully you like them. But it adds a lot of really good depth and stuff into your recipes. We've been, one of the things we've been doing this winter, just to make things easier, is not have to worry about like, okay, what are we going to eat tonight? Or you get in that rut where you're doing like 4 or 5 recipes. I've just started making all kinds of different soups, and it's usually enough for dinner, like soups, crusty bread, and a salad, and then enough for maybe 1 or 2 days. So it lasts about 3 days, and then I go in and get another soup. And so I'm through my recipe books and just, writing down things and things that I'm making. We're like, okay, We like this one, we would added this to it or that type of thing, but it's a really good way to clean out your refrigerator, but also a really good way to make lunches and dinners and stuff really easy in the winter. Okay, so onions are in there. So we said we're going to stir in the chili flakes. So I'm just going to do a little pinch, probably that's about a half of a pinch, but I can always add more. Already making, I can fill up my nose. Then we're going to add in, so we have the chili flakes. Now we're going to add in part of the fennel seeds. Oh, that fennel smells good. It smells Italian. That's what it smells like. Like when you go to an Italian restaurant and they've got all the bread cooking and you start smelling like the spicy sauces. What fennel reminds you of. Okay, and then we're going to stir in the smoked paprika. So we've got 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. And we're going to need a little bit more. Going to turn everything kind of a nice rusty brown color. That's it. Smells good. Smells a little smoky, which is really nice. And then we've got where'd it go? 1.5 tablespoons of tomato paste. I love the tomato paste. My favorite thing in the world. I always have the little cans, little 6-ounce cans of it. But a lot of times and stuff, all you need is 1.5 tablespoons. So I love the little squeeze containers of it. So you can always keep tomato paste around. And then if you need a whole bunch, then you open up the can. Almost looks like a tomato sauce. That up. In goes the cabbage. So the cabbage, we've got basically half of a green cabbage. The cabbage was about that big. And normally if I wasn't doing the cooking show, I would use the big wok in the back. I do a lot of things that I'm sauteing in the wok. I'm going to add a little bit more vegetable broth, just kind of like a drizzle. That's going to give me that steam. This is also where you can put the lid on, kind of step away for a couple of minutes after you get everything's all added together. Ooh, that smells. And you could laugh, if you decide like, oh, I'm not a big tomato paste type of a person, you could always leave the tomato paste out and do all the other flavors. But that tomato paste, of course, makes it Italian. Not necessarily just Italian, but a flavor of Italian. That up. Lid for just a minute. We'll let it simmer just a few minutes. We want the cabbage to break down a little bit. Well, too bad you're not here because it smells really good in the house. Smells like dinner, I think. But it kind of smells like an Italian holiday. And I love, like I said, when you get into like the holidays and stuff and New Year's and everything else that's coming up, there's so many other recipes that you can make that why not make them? Have some fun. Make almost like people make their own, so you could do the nut lentil roast, but then you could do the tomato sauce on the side. You could add, caramelized onions. You could do all that, and people could make, get some really good like crusty bread. Like what is it? Enzo's which used to be like Udi's and stuff, to make some really good bread that's like 3 ingredients. So you could toast some of that up and people could make, like open face sandwiches with all that, or, there's just so much you could do that it's just really good. So what?
Not fair, she can't smell it.
I know. Back when I always, and some of you guys are gonna be like, who? But Emeril Lagasse used to be like, he was one of the first chefs that were out there and stuff on TV, and he used to go like, everybody needs smell-o-vision. That's what you should have on TV. Smell-o-vision. Let's grab this out. It is bubbly. Okay, down first. And that looked beautiful. Yum. Okay, so nice and reduced cabbage, green cabbage there. Really good. Cannellini white beans, 1 can, rinse and drain. All we need to do with the white beans is just make sure you've got them heated through. Like I said, we're gonna do this, like the tomato be almost like a gravy. And so we're gonna do, we're gonna cut this up for dinner, put with the cabbage, and then we have, and I just made some side of mashed potatoes really quick. Grab our serving dish. If it was home, Jerry doesn't care. As long as he's got something to eat and it's good, like, yeah. But since we're doing a little bit on the show, a little bit of parsley, and then we'll get you guys onto your what you're doing, and a little bit of microgreens. There we go. So the lentil nut roast. So you've got the roast in the middle, you've got the tomato sugo around it, so like a tomato sauce, but it's a whole cherry tomato sauce. And it's, you can, like I said, you can slice it up, you could leave this off on the side, you could do all kinds of different things, you could add so many different flavors into your lentil nut roast and that. And then we've got basically an Italian cabbage. So it has cannellini white beans, it has quite a different flavors. You know what I forgot to do? Forgot to add the smoke, but that's okay. I've got the smoked paprika. And then it's got cabbage and lots of different flavors and tomato paste, and that's ready to go. So between this and a little bit of side mashed potatoes and stuff for dinner, just so we have the dinner ready to go. Or it could have been like a huge big salad, which would have been great, like an Italian salad. We are ready to go. And guess what? Mwah, it's dinner time. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Put this down so I don't dump it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Happy holidays. I can't even say it today. Happy holidays to everybody. Love you guys, and we'll see you at the first of the year. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. I'll come more often though.
Thank you. We'd love to see you.
Great job. Thank you. And I'll make a payment on your link. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great happy holiday.
Happy holiday. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
How do I get out of here?